Hey, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Live and Learn podcast. We are going to inform sellers, buyers, investors, and agents on everything they need to know about the real estate market and the changes that are happening. I am excited about this opportunity to talk with you guys. And I have been in the business for over 30 years, and it has given me a lot of stories to tell. And I want to share my stories with you. The most important thing for agents to know and for the consumer to know right now is that rules are changing. And there are some home inspection rules that we wanted to talk about. And I thought there would be no better person than one of my dearest friends in all the land and in the real estate world, George Megaludis, of co-owner of Simple Title. Um, we are going to just chit chat about the new rules, what's happening, what you need to know, no matter who you are, um, so that you can be informed and make the right decisions. So, welcome, George. Thanks so much for being here.
Candace, thanks for having me. Congratulations on launching the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There really is no one person I would want on here more than you. Well, maybe Kenny, but
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
he couldn't
it's a
be.
little
So
nepotism,
you're
so we'll leave it
you're
alone.
the second one. You're kind of like my work husband a little bit.
I appreciate that.
The amount of calls I do with you, George, I mean,
It's always happy to help.
you have been wonderful. So, we're here because of more bull in the real estate world and more regulations, more things to navigate, and you have been instrumental in navigating all of the changes from last year with all of our agents. We have almost 60 agents at Live Realty, and you have kept everyone calm, cool, collected, informed, and educated on what to do with every form and every change. And it has gone off without a hitch over at the brokerage. We are thriving. So I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely happy to help, but I can't take all the credit for it. Leadership at the helm of the brokerage covers a lot more ground than I can possibly in an hour or two in speaking to the group.
You're always too kind, George. Thank you. So now we have some more things to contend with. More things are getting thrown at us. Boy, has there ever been a hard time to be a broker? I'll tell you, it is now, and potentially an attorney, right? All these new rules. The newest rule, you might be able to cite the exact law that has been put into place, but it involves home inspections. Can you tell us a little bit about what's changing or what may change or what we're facing?
I'd rather not cite the law because, quite frankly, I can't afford to lose more hair on my head. The long and short of it is the new home inspection law, as they call it, has come out, and it prevents sellers from being able to accept offers where they know the buyer is in advance looking to waive their home inspection.
Okay. So how would that affect I know how it's going to affect the agents. How is it going to affect buyers? How are you going to advise your buyers if they call you about this?
So right now, it's a weird time. We're talking about this in July of 2025. The law is supposed to take into effect October 15th. And the regulations have come out. The Board of Realtors have not quite come up with their guidance for the community or the forms that the real estate brokers and agents are going to rely on. So it's kind of hard for me to say what the advice has to be or should be at this point. The only thing that I can say is if you want to do a home inspection and in the past you haven't been able to do so, you're going to have a reasonable period of time to conduct a home inspection, and the seller can't single out your offer because you have home inspection language in there or you don't, as the case may be.
We've
The
talked about this off air,
Yep,
and I hope I didn't interrupt. We've talked about this on air, off air, and basically it's all speculation right now.
correct.
And we're figuring sometime after everyone comes back to work after the summer, we are going to have a form. Not to say that people aren't actively working on it right now. We appreciate those people.
We do.
Um, we are expecting to have a form that spells this out, just like our last regulations did, really dumbs it down for everybody and makes it make sense, right?
Correct. So there should be a form um, that is put out there that tells every single participant in the transaction that the buyer is entitled to a home inspection. In the meat of it, it's a violation of the consumer protection law for the real estate agent to not have that form signed
Mhm.
by the consumer. While we're talking about this, it's important to know that this only applies to 1 to 4 family properties. And there's some further exceptions to it. So let's not cause a complete panic
Right.
out there.
Private
But
sales are excluded.
foreclosures, things of that
Family,
nature,
yeah,
family transfers.
interfamily, yeah, transfers, yep.
But ultimately, what will wind up happening is there'll be a disclosure that the parties to the transaction need to sign
Mhm,
um, in advance, similar to sort of what we use for a lead paint disclosure, would be my guess.
mhm,
And the offer form will probably slightly change in terms of the contingency section where we reference inspections.
mhm.
I don't know what that's going to look like, but the law says that the buyer's got a reasonable opportunity to inspect,
Right,
which includes a reasonable time frame.
right.
So I don't know what that looks like. Historically, when I started growing up in the business, it was 10 days between offer, home inspection, and then there were another 4 days for the purchase and sale
It was
agreement.
pretty standard back then.
It was cookie cutter.
Now it's
Now it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
Not to date myself, when I turned 18 years old, I actually sat for the real estate agent exam and passed it, literally on my 18th birthday.
same.
And what
That's crazy. I didn't know that about you.
when I started out, there was no MLS. It was just books.
I remember that. You'd
Um,
go into the office and flip the
and
pages
flip the
of the
pages
listings,
and wait
and
for
they were
the
black and white.
black and white, and then you wait for the midweek update that's going to list the open houses and the rest of it. It was chaos.
Yeah.
Um,
It was kinda great in a different sense. It was kind of basic and wonderful. To me, I miss the old days of, like, the ease of that, but it wasn't great for the consumer, of course, you know?
no, and
Technology has really made things
technology,
completely
I
different.
think, is helped a lot,
Mhm.
but I think it's also created a lot more chaos that wasn't there in the past. Before you
Right.
had, a group of people that were in your city, or the connecting city that you worked with on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Technology's allowed it to sort of open up to larger, geographic areas. So you have a lot of people that aren't necessarily in that marketplace participating in that marketplace on a regular basis.
Yeah, and with technology, you can do it effectively sometimes.
Yep,
So, all depends on the agents and what's happening.
very
So,
true.
yeah, I think that, the consumers need to sit tight and trust the advisement of their agents.
Yep.
Our agents need to sit tight and let us really digest the new forms, and we will present them like we always do. And they will be concise, they will all be trained, they will all be clear. So if you're working with a live agent, you're going to know that this person knows exactly what they're talking about and exactly what the rules are and exactly what they need to do. And I think that's really important, right? And so I think we can only hope that the industry follows suit just like we would. I mean, it's a lot easier for a smaller independent brokerage like mine, never mind a larger franchise brokerage that has so many brokers to try to get this across to.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you look at sort of the real estate broker commission law that went into effect
Last year.
last year,
Hmm.
there was a whole bunch of angst and worry and confusion.
Noise, lots of noise for nothing. Yeah,
I remember a few phone calls that
yeah,
were all noise.
yeah, yeah.
But ultimately was you just have to disclose what's happening, and this is going to
And it's
be
all written for you on the
it's all
form.
it's scripted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This isn't going to be any different. The
Mhm.
only difference is the backroom dealing, which is why I was getting to, everybody knew everybody else.
Right,
You don't know what the person who's trying to come into the marketplace, may be thinking.
right.
On the agent side, you don't know what the local people are doing. The first couple of months of the new commission structure, I know that agents were walking a very fine line, nod on, wink, wink stuff. I can see that happening for a short period of time as it relates to this new inspection law, but I see that going away, especially since this is coming into a period of time where it looks like we're in a buyer's market versus a seller's market.
That's the next episode, George. Completely. Yes, you're absolutely right. Um, so what do you think a takeaway would be if you are going to be listing your home? I know what I would advise sellers, but do you have any advice for sellers when they're going to be listing their homes
Yep.
in lieu of this new regulation that will be set forth?
So my biggest thing is a large degree of ignorance is bliss. So if I'm a seller, I wouldn't be going around and doing a home inspection. Um, when
Mm,
it's all said and done, Massachusetts is, in fact, a buyer beware state.
mhm.
So if you do the home inspection and you know certain conditions exist in your home, if the buyer asks, there's no plausible deniability. You can't say, "Oh, I
You
don't
you
know."
have to
You have to
disclose any known
disclose,
defects as the seller, and we have to hope the sellers tell us any
right?
known defects that they
So
know about, but sometimes they're unknown.
right. So if you're from a pure liability perspective, you're better off not knowing and being surprised, for lack of a better word, when the buyer comes back with, home inspection issues
Mm,
versus trying to be preemptive and trying to do your own home inspection.
mm,
There was conversation for a couple of days after the law came into effect before it was postponed that people were considering doing home inspections and then attaching them to the MLS listings.
mm.
Um, I don't think that's a really good idea because now you're creating liability for the agent who's publishing that information. You're potentially creating liability for the seller,
The home inspector.
the home inspector. It's just fraught with issues.
Mhm.
So you're better off just having if you're going to sell your home, make sure your listing agent does what he or she normally does in terms of
Yeah.
listing a home,
I go in, I
pretty it
if
up.
there's things that need to be fixed, we try to address them. I always say to my sellers, "You wanna give a good product, don't you?" And oftentimes they'll say, "Yeah." Well, you should really fix that. You should really do this. You should really repair this. I think generally speaking, sellers wanna do the right thing. I don't think everybody's out to get everybody. I think that's kind of a cat and mouse game that's always been and always has happened, but it's not really real. Like, my sellers genuinely wanna deliver a beautiful home.
You know, it it really is kind of a situation where you have people, for the most part, trying to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Um, the whole, opposite sides of the transaction, everybody's got sort of their own agenda. It's not really real. You have a seller who wants to sell, a buyer who wants to buy. There's always a way to middle ground that if everybody's intentions are pure.
I think the problem is the buyers always think everyone's out to get them.
For a long time, you know, I think that was ingrained in buyers' heads. I
Yeah.
think we talked about technology.
Mhm,
I think technology and information now becoming available to buyers is sort of dissipating that a little bit.
mhm,
Years ago, when we would review purchase and sale agreements with buyers, that process would be, an hour, 2 hours over the phone.
mhm.
Now it's like 15 minutes, at most,
If that. If they
if that.
even bother calling you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, they're educating themselves. A few years back, we'd have buyers saying, "We're here for, a few hours. My parents warned me." Now buyers are just shooting in, closing 15, 20 minutes, they're out the door, happy knowing exactly what they signed up for. And I think that's a testament to um, real estate agents and brokers such as yourself who are trying to make sure that their consumer is educated and is able to do the right thing out of the gate.
I think education is the key to all of this for everybody, all parties, right? I
Agreed.
mean, I think agents on an agent level, on an attorney level, on a buyer level, and on a seller level, like at the end of the day, do your due diligence. Know what you know. And at the end of the day, too, what's going to happen? Like, let's say I'm an investor, George, and let's say I want to buy a property and I don't want an inspection. I don't care. I know how to fix it all. I do this often. For our own personal stuff, we have inspection. We know what we're looking at. We've been in the business for a long time. What's gonna happen with that? How does that play out? Is it gonna be like a large aggregate that I just give, like, anything over 100 grand, in repairs, I won't bother you, Mr. and Miss Seller, with coming back after the inspection if I decide to have one. Would it be kinda worded that way, like a high aggregate, you think?
So it depends on what the boards kind of put together for the forms.
Mhm.
If I were to be speculating, I think there'll probably be language in there saying, if there's going to be repairs that the home inspector finds are going to be more than X number of dollars, um, I'm not going to, if it's under that amount, I'm not going to bother you.
Mhm.
Similar to some of the language that we have currently.
Mhm.
But it's important to know that just because this law is out there doesn't actually mean that the buyer has to go forward with a home inspection. It's still
Yeah, it costs
their
money.
choice.
Most of them can't afford to pay for it. They don't want to pay for it. Maybe they're going to elect to get a home warranty instead. There's all kinds of levels of options out there for buyers, depending on the type of property they're buying and
Correct.
who's leading them down that path. So I think it's really important to have someone they trust, right? Someone they know cares about the outcome. And from there, we're just going to have to kind of see how the chips fall, right?
Yeah, there's no unfortunately, as we sit here today, there's no, straight path.
And
There's
that's
gonna
why
be
they
some
always need us, George. They're always gonna
job security.
we cannot be replaced by AI and we cannot be replaced by computers or robots because this is there's a some things can't be taught as far as inspections and homes and all of these things. And no matter how much they're gonna try to maybe do that or have over the years, there's always that need for representation and proper representation.
Very true. We do this day in, day out. My office closes hundreds of transactions a month, which is kind of small scale for some other parts of the country. But the reality is, every transaction as we see it is a transaction for us, but it's an emotional journey for the person on the other side. So some people will live and die by the fact that they want to do a home inspection
Mhm.
because it gives them the peace of mind.
Mhm.
Some people, because they're seasoned or for whatever other reason, aren't going to want to do it.
Mhm.
It's up to the individual choice on the buyer side, but the seller side can't knowingly accept an offer where the buyer some way somehow has waived
And they certainly
the home
can't tell
inspection.
them, "You can't have a
Can't
home
tell them.
inspection." I can't call you and say, "They're not accepting any offer with a home inspection," none of that. I will say we have a form that says, they acknowledge that they're waiving a home inspection, for our brokerage, and I do think that's something that certainly should be signed by anyone who does waive it, and I can't say that those forms exist everywhere.
They don't.
But because we're under legal advisement and always protected, we make sure that um, we inform the consumer, right? At the end of the day, home inspections are great. None of us want anyone to buy anything without a home inspection, right? It's easier for me if you get a home inspection and you know out the gate what's wrong. Or I want you to be aware of everything about this home. But the facts are sometimes there's things that even a home inspector even a home inspector can't catch. And sometimes, at the end of the day, if you really have been looking and you're beat up over putting offers in and and the market is in your price range is really competitive, you may make the decision to do that and you've got to live with that consequence. And that is a conversation I have with my buyers is, listen, I don't want you to waive it. I'd never want you to waive it. Uh, I treat everybody like their family, and I want you to have a home inspection. But you're hiring me to do a job, and ultimately, this may mean to win it for you. This may be what we need to do to compete. And I'm very careful about how I say it because I don't want them to do it either. But ultimately, that's the name of the game right now. That is how people are getting their offers accepted. And sellers just don't want to deal with the nickel and diming. And there is so much nickel and diming that can go back and forth. right? Like unnecessary stuff. Though an outlet doesn't work, or and I understand that's an electrical thing, but you're probably going to change lights out. You might probably should have an electrician go through the house when you buy the house. It's just like some things that would be arguable. This is all
But,
arguable stuff.
the thing that I've learned over the years is common sense isn't as common as we all think it is.
No, no, there is no such thing as common sense. I think post COVID too. I think everyone on every side has become more selfish and in their own bubble. Um, and it's not like you're not sitting down shaking hands at the closing anymore. The days of every party being at the closing table is gone. It's sad. That's sad to me. I did miss that. But like also facing each other, working out problems, not being, keyboard
Hiding behind an
arguers.
email.
What is it?
Hiding behind email.
Hiding behind emails and hiding behind your attorney. Like at the end of the day, like talk it through. Let's all talk it through. Let's all make it work. And I think there's an art to um leaving a transaction with everyone being happy. And those are my favorite.
I remember one of the last closings I had where everybody was at the tables at the Salem Registry of Deeds. Coincidentally, I knew the sellers. I knew the sellers' agents. I knew the buyer's agent. Um, the only people when I walked into the closing room that I didn't know were the buyers. Um, I'll tell the silly story. I was about 10 minutes late getting to the closing, and I announced to everybody, having looked around the room, knowing everybody with the exception of buyers, like, I apologized. It was my first time going to the Registry of Deeds. I had probably been there, 1,000
Right.
times, and
No
e-
one
ev-
no one caught that joke?
everybody laughed
Oh, they laughed.
with the exception of the buyers. I thought like the female buyer was gonna puke in her mouth, and the male buyer kind of turned a little pale. But once they saw everybody laughing, and I kind of explained, "I'm just kidding. It
It's
was
my
a
first
joke."
day. Let's see
They,
if we can figure out how to record this.
yeah, they felt a lot better about it.
Yeah, I can see where they'd be tense. I have a funny registry. Was it Salem?
Yeah,
Yeah, I have a funny the old Salem deeds. I was walking into a closing and my heel snapped right off of my shoe. And that led from, madness ensued from there. Everybody was laughing at me. So, real estate, you can't take yourself too seriously.
no, but
Also, the heels have shortened
yeah.
a lot over the years, you know?
But, those human type interactions, don't actually exist at the closing table right now.
Yeah.
And,
I miss it.
and to a large degree, I think that's kind of what breeds a little bit of the people being on edge, the rules continuously changing around us,
Yeah.
because that face-to-face discussion, the being able to read somebody, most of that's disappeared.
Yeah, like when you buy your house and it's new construction and you get to meet the contractor and really talk with them and feel good about the product they put out, there's an ease that comes with that.
100%.
And so now everybody's really separated and it's really depersonalized and to some extent I'm sure it's great, but I miss the old days.
Like, I think there's a movement to try to take the emotion out of it,
Yeah.
um, but you can't.
No.
It's people's biggest
Investment.
decision.
Yeah, biggest decision, investment potentially. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out, and I think everyone should continue to tune in and listen to what we have to tell you about updates in regards to the home inspection laws. And Massachusetts is the only state, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that has enacted home inspection laws of this nature.
I believe you're right, but also Massachusetts is one of the few states that don't require any type of mandatory disclosure. And I say that a little generally, because there is a disclosure that's required in Massachusetts that if your home doesn't have utilities or has the ability to be hooked up with utilities, you need to disclose that. But in
No one
today's
fills out that form,
today's
George.
day and age, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, advice to buyers: align with a good agent that's educated. Get yourself a fantastic attorney that knows how to navigate this stuff. Advice to sellers: again, get a fantastic agent that's been through the trenches, that knows all this stuff, that can navigate it, that's well spoken, that can handle the home inspection issues that may arise if they do so arise.
And that's important. Most of this stuff is gonna get hashed out before it gets to the attorneys.
Mhm,
The attorneys may have to put together a rider or, firm up a repair list or something to that effect,
mhm.
but most of the negotiation's gonna happen prior to getting to us. Um,
On the agent level.
so it's all
Yeah,
gonna be agent level, so the consumer's gotta make sure that they're working with an agent that knows his or her stuff.
yeah. Now more than ever.
Agreed.
Yeah. No, like, going with your family member because you just wanna throw them a bone, pardon the expression, but, like, no listing with Aunt Sally because you feel bad. Like, n there's no time for that, and as a buyer, you should really be choosing someone who's gonna be a pit bull for you and that's gonna work hard, but also knows how to get deals done cohesively with a listing agent. So there's an art to all of this. And when it all comes together, it's a symphony and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's exciting for the new homeowners. So I think that's what we're all here for is to try to get to that beautiful symphony and hope that more people can feel good about what they're doing, what they're buying, who they're working with. And we just keep rolling with the punches here, George.
I don't think this is gonna be as big a deal as most people are fearing. I think that this is just gonna fall into another process.
Disclosure
Um,
process. Yeah.
but when you put it all together, there's gonna be a lot more home inspections happening going forward than there were in the past. So having your team put together and having a team that actually does this day in, day out, doesn't just moonlight, you know, is gonna be helpful for, I think, all parties involved.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people that, when COVID happened, post COVID, the market was fantastic. They haven't even had to negotiate inspections, right? Like those people exist. It's like, and
They
so
do.
now there's just a new way of doing things, and hopefully those agents align with people they know will hold their hand. And at this point, all we can do is hold everybody's hand and help as many people as we can for as long as we can.
The
It's the
more
name of
you
the
give, the
game.
more you get.
That's it. Well, you live and learn. I want to thank you so much for being here today with me, George. It means the world to me. I'm so thankful for you and for your friendship. If you want to find George, the amazing George Megaludis, the co-owner of Simple Title, how easy is it to get a hold of you, George? Can you tell him how to do you want to give them your cell phone, George, so they can call all hours and on Sundays?
What's really
That's
funny
a
is
valuable number.
it's a valuable number, but what's really funny is if they call the direct dial for me that shows up on the website, um, they can actually text that phone number,
Mhm.
and it goes to my cell phone.
Awesome. That's
So
amazing.
people are able to reach me, and I'm able to sort of shut it off so I can actually have private time with
Yeah.
my friends and family
Yep.
on the rare occasion. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is simply just to email me at uh,
You wanna spell that out,
I
George?
was gonna. It's megaludis at simpletitle.us. Megaludis sounds scary, but it really isn't. It's
It's
mega
phonetic.
loud is at simpletitle.us.
I love that. I love it. Well, thank you, George. Thanks again for being
Candace, thanks
here.
for having me. Appreciate you.
I wanna thank everybody who's tuned in and watched this episode, and if you liked what you're hearing, I don't know, little old me might like a subscribe button hit, if you could, and I'm gonna keep delivering some good information, worthwhile to listen and watch, week after week for you, so let's do this together, let's get through it together. Thanks so much.